Today, I want to talk about our competitive advantage, our differentiation versus other similar funds. And I want to pick particularly two types of investment companies that I believe sometimes our customers and observers think we're competing with. One is a fund like ARK Invest. I want to use them as a wrapper. So that is, I would call it traditional investment companies with an innovation focus, and then venture capital. I hear a lot of questions coming our way. Well, how are you different? Why should I invest in your fund if I can do investments in those types of funds? And this is the topic of today. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's October 10th, 2020. This is Krim Delco. Today, there's no update. It's Saturday. So let me jump right into the theme. So we have two companies. One, as I said, the wrapper, ARK Invest, which is traditional investment company with innovation focus. The other is venture capital. Let's start with ARK Invest. ARK Invest is a fantastic company. We have a lot of respect for them. However, we don't consider ourselves competing in the same market at all. ARK Invest is a traditional company coming out of a traditional asset management environment. Kathy Wood, I believe, worked for Bernstein and Capital and all these traditional asset managers. So what she's doing is she's using an old model with a new narrative. So she's using the old model, which is capital gathering and accumulating assets, hiring research people, selling your research, pretending to be unique in the research you do, and things like that. And I use the word pretending a little bit derogatory because one of the negative things that I believe go with ARK Invest is that they're selling themselves in this old-fashioned manner of our research, our meetings, our brainstorming meetings, our first principle research, all these catchwords which are supposed to impress third-party potential investors. So we don't like that. But let's put that aside for now. What is ARK Invest doing that we're not doing? What are we doing that they're not doing? Well, first and foremost, we concentrate. Our fund is much, much more concentrated than ARK Invest because our mission is to generate wealth. It's not to do anything else. I don't know exactly what ARK Invest's mission is. I think Kathy Wood has, yeah, on that front said several things back and forth. It is to bring innovation to the regular capital markets. It is to help people generate returns, hedge against disruption. I don't know. Whatever their mission is, our mission is to generate wealth, and you can only generate wealth with very high concentration. Second, one thing we don't do is we don't sell our research. So we don't go out and try to convince anybody that our research is superior than anybody else's because we believe that research is a very personal thing. Our main statement within this context is that you can only survive over the long term in this business if you own your idea and your position. So you have to own both. You have to do your own work and be able to withstand tough times. And this is simply based on the fact that the big returns, the big dollar amounts, they come with compound interest. And the only way you can stick around is if you own the research and the position. So therefore, we don't sell our research. We don't try to tout ourselves as superior researchers because we're using first principle research or whatever the word is these days that people use to sell themselves. That's not what we do. We do our own research. We're happy to share our ideas, but we don't see a reason to put our research on GitHub or anything like that because we don't believe that anybody can piggyback on our research. This is not how it works. Research is, it's a bit like finding your mate or raising your kids or training for a sports event. I mean, a sports training in a sports context. You can't piggyback on it. You can't train soccer like Ronaldo or football like Tom Brady or Mahomes. You can't. You have to find your own way, your uniqueness. We're very highly influenced by Zero to One by Peter Thiel. Not that we're trying to copy what he's saying in that book, but this is a book that spiritually reflects exactly what we believe in, which is your own uniqueness gives you a monopoly of yourself, and that is the way you generate wealth. By the way, we don't see any difference between the investment world and the entrepreneurial world. In fact, we see this is a seamless transition from the entrepreneur to us. We cannot think differently than them. So, for example, an entrepreneur cannot diversify their own exposure to reduce volatility, or even worse, I've heard Kathy Wood even say that they're actually making trading profits. So they're pretending to be able to trade, to buy low and sell high, take advantage of volatility, things like that, which for me as a former trader, it's just blasphemy. You can't even say things like that. It completely discredits you in my view, because that is an ephemeral thing. You can sometimes succeed, sometimes you don't, but you also generate commission for the street, which is sort of that old-fashioned, I think, asset manager mentality that you have to give something back to the street. I don't know why they're doing that. Even if you generate a few basis points with trading compared to the hundreds and thousands of basis points that you're supposed to make over the lifetime of an investment, this shouldn't be something you even spend your time with. So what that means is if Tesla goes down tomorrow by 10% or 20%, and I think it's on the price, I'm not going to go buy it unless I have capital that is standing around. But then I'm going to buy it no matter what, and I'm not going to wait for timing, things like that. It's just I feel like it's not professional. So my point is, generating wealth as a mission is to take advantage of compound interest. If you can't do that, then you're not going to generate wealth. And I mean, the math, I'm sure everybody has done that math. I can do it here very quickly. If you start with $1,000 and you make 20%, well, then you're going to make $200 in year one. If you compound that $1,000 over the years, and let's say it grows to $10,000, and then you make 20% next year, you're going to make $2,000, which is more than you started with. So the power of compound in dollars is just it's a fact. It's that's what you're really after. And in order to be able to actually achieve that, I believe you have to do your own research. This is what it comes back to. You have to do your own research. So what I'm saying is, the path to wealth creation goes through concentration, and concentration can only be achieved if you do your own work and you internalize your ideas, so you can stick around to take advantage of compound interest rates, which is the actual mathematical function that generates the kind of wealth that we're talking about. So this would be the first thing that I think we differentiate ourselves from Kathy Wood. We're not selling our research. The second one is, we're not diversifying. She is claiming that her fund is concentrated, and relative to where she comes from, she is very concentrated. But let's be clear, she talks about, I think, five platforms, 14 technologies. She has probably more than 100 stocks in her portfolios. That's not concentration. That is, it's a little bit less spray and pray maybe than the traditional funds, but we would still classify this as spray and pray. For us, this is just not how you generate wealth. I mean, you can do it. You can generate commissions that way, and this is what this fund and many other funds, pretty much any fund that grows to the point where they sell research and have to pay salaries and all that stuff, that's what they have to do. They have to actually generate enough fees through asset gathering to pay all these people. In our view, that is a very questionable strategy. It's possible, it's maybe not always very honestly conveyed to other people, but it's certainly not what we do. So this would be the second differentiation relative to a fund like ARK Invest. The third would be what I call our principles investing strategy. What I mean with that is, we start with 3 books. That is the foundation of our philosophy. The 3 books, 0 to 1, The Innovation Stack, and The Innovator's Dilemma, are the foundation of our investment strategy. So we're not top-down, macro or micro or bottom-up or any of that stuff. We start a little bit like, I call it principles-based. You can call it almost like a spiritually based or even religious, in the sense that we believe in the book. It starts with the book, and then from there it goes, and we translate that into an investment strategy and a wealth generation strategy. So the point here is that these 3 books are our guide, our spiritual guide in the way we invest. And therefore, these books are very, very useful, not just in terms of picking the right investments such as Tesla, but even more importantly, they help us say no. Why do we say no to Uber? Because it doesn't fit into the concept of those 3 books. There is no innovation's dilemma dynamics. There's no innovator's dilemma dynamics. There is no innovation stack, and there is even no 0 to 1 concept there. Square is a very difficult situation for us. We have stayed away from there. and that is an edge case that I don't want to discuss any further now. But my point is, it helps us fundamentally say no. Why did we say no to NVIDIA? Actually, we were invested in NVIDIA several times, but then we stayed out of NVIDIA because they did not play into the innovator's dilemma concept, i.e. that everybody is still very fiercely competing with them. And although they do have still a competitive advantage that gives them maybe a few years of runaway, we believe that NVIDIA will run into the proverbial wall of competition that will at least bring down the valuation of the stock, if not even bring the company into serious trouble. So this principles-based approach, we're not the only ones out there. I believe there are other ones. I just want to differentiate ourselves relative to a wrapper that I call ARK Invest. Now, the second differentiation I want to talk about is the venture capital industry. Well, if you're talking about disruptive technologies and wealth creation, why don't I just put my money into venture capital? And I want to say two words here. Number one, transparency, and number two, company building. The one is a bad thing, the other one's a good thing. Let's start with the good thing. I think venture capital is a great innovation that started in the 50s and has since then developed into a large industry here in Silicon Valley particularly. And I think venture capital is incredibly good at company building. We are not company builders. To put it in Peter Thiel's terms, venture capital is the 0 to 1 business. We are the 1 to N business. That's it. Very simple. The compound interest, the lack of trading, we don't need liquidity events, all of that stuff that the venture capital industry by definition needs, because they are in the end 0 to 1 business. So when the one happens, you want to get out and build the next 0 to 1 situation. We are not company builders. So on a daily basis, we don't spend time recruiting, thinking about who should be VP of sales. That's not what we do. We don't have a network of people who can hire each other, help each other progress in their careers, get the right person in the right company, all that stuff. I don't know if the venture capital industry actually has that, but I definitely know that we don't have that. So this is one differentiation. And to come back to our compound interest rate argument, which is we believe that we can generate a lot more wealth in dollars than the venture capital industry, because we are building on top of ever-growing asset bases with our investments. The negative part of venture capital that we absolutely are happy to differentiate ourselves from is the lack of transparency. You don't know what kind of returns they have. We don't know. Everybody talks about making money. Oh, we invested in Facebook, we invested here, we were early investors in Tesla. Yeah, but what are your returns? How many failures did you have? What's your actual return over which time frame? What's the compound? And by the way, what is your time frame? And how much do you lock your money up? Do people have liquidity? Are they free to get in and out of your fund? Those are all very, very big questions that most venture capital firms cannot answer with a straight face. So we are not in that business. Again, we are not questioning that business model. It's a very successful business model for Silicon Valley. But at Orange Capital Partners, we are not. We are in the business of generating wealth by investing in disruptive technologies with large impact. We are in the 1 to N business. We are in the business of sticking around when the road gets tough, and of course picking those investments that in the end up like winners, like the Teslas, the Amazons, the Apples. Those are the kinds of companies that we're looking for. We're looking for platforms such as the CRISPR technology that will propel whole new industries, if not whole new economic developments, such as the transistor did in the last century. And that's kind of the playground where we play. We are very transparent. Our returns are on a daily basis. Our NAV is calculated on a daily basis, always available to our investors, even to outside investors. We are not selling our research. Anybody who's interested in knowing how we think can listen to this podcast, but we're not selling. This is not meant for sale. This is just meant to give people an idea how we work, because we believe that the only way you can actually generate wealth yourself is by owning the idea and the position. Thank you.